Hello everybody and welcome to episode 3 of Aquaponics Adventures. Today I'll do a little bit of maintenance on the system here. I'll top up the water. As you can see, I've got the hose in there, and I'll add a little bit of the supplemental nutrients that I put in there. Just a couple things that I add. Iron definitely made a big difference. I was noticing iron deficiencies early on in the system. This seemed to have corrected it completely, so it works really well. And then the other addition that I add with each water top up is soluble seaweed extract, which is high in NPK. Yes, high in soluble potash, K2O, so 16%. This unfortunately has kind of got absorbed a bunch of water and kind of solidified in there, but it's probably time for a new one. But it's lasted a while. Things have been progressing nicely, even though it is December, and as you can see, winter is full on. But it doesn't stop us from getting nice, juicy red tomatoes. These are the Tiny Tim variety that I've planted here. It looks beautiful in the sunlight. As you can see, it's pretty well stuck in there. But what I'll do is just take a hunk out. As you can see, big chunk, but I'll just add that to the top of the system and it'll break up. I'll break it up a little bit and it'll be absorbed. But like I said, it's probably time for a new batch. And then the iron, well, it's not much needed. Put a little bit in and it really does make the water kind of red, so you can tell it's been added. But I would say, well, I can't really tell there, but maybe an eighth to a quarter of this with each top up. Anyways, I'll get that put in there. Alright, and as far as water top ups go, I fill this half barrel probably once every 2 weeks, and just through the effects of transpiration, plants, and evaporation just from the tank and the grow beds, that's about how much water I'll go through. If it's warmer, generally a bit more, especially if the sun's shining in here, but yeah, really that's not a lot of water considering. So what I do here is turn the tap on. And just throw it in here. There we go. So the other topic I wanted to talk about today was just the accumulation of solids, and there is a little bit in the top tank there, if you see, but honestly it's never been emptied in over 2 years and still seems to be growing very minimally, so it's not been an issue. I know a lot of people use something called a swirl filter. Well, they'll have water come in at an angle into a bucket and spin in a circle to create like a vortex, and by doing that it'll allow the solids to settle to the bottom of the bucket, and at the bottom they'll have the little valve that is opened to drain the bottom part and basically remove the solids that way from their system fairly easily. But like I said, I haven't had an issue. I do notice when going through the grow beds there's a bit of solids accumulating in there over time, and what I plan to do is bring some red regular composting worms into the system and have them take care of that. They'll go around and eat up all the dead roots and decaying matter that are in the grow beds, come back and give me in the system worm castings, which is probably some of the best fertilizer nature has to offer. So enhancing the biodiversity of the system and overall strengthening it, it's a good thing. So yeah, that's just a matter of me getting them, and one day I'll make an episode and introduce them. The issue I do have with solids accumulation is in the lines and the pump specifically. What happens is, as I've said before, the fish poop and waste and uneaten food and whatnot, even roots I guess, accumulate in the pump impeller, and the output is diminished. So what happens is I don't have enough water flowing through this system into the bucket up top to trigger the siphon. So basically what happens is the whole thing trickles. So the water basically is filled up to the top where it is going into the bell siphon, but it is not trickling, or sorry, it is not triggering the siphon to kick into action. There's just not quite enough flow. So basically what happens is there's a bit of water transfers through the system, nothing overfills or anything, but we don't have the flood and drain effect anymore. And that's not optimal by any means. And the water level in the tank as well stays quite low, so the fish don't have a whole lot of room to do their thing. Okay, well I should shut this water off. I don't want to overfill it. Done that many a times. There we go. It's better. It's good. Okay. So, what I did, or what I had been doing, I guess, first of all, was taking off the top connection here of the hose and blowing it out by mouth. And that's lovely with all the fish poop around the edge there, and you know, kind of a pain in the butt, especially because it seemed to be happening more frequently than would be desired. I mean, just don't want it ever to happen, but I'd have to do it basically every second day or so, and kind of became a pain. And if I was away for more than a few days, basically it meant the system most likely by the time I got home would just be in that trickling mode, which, you know, like I said, will sustain things. Nothing's gonna die immediately, but it'll it's not optimal. Things could be much better if the roots are being fully submersed and drained of water every couple times every hour with the cycles. So what I did was created an automated system, and this I kind of put together just from my experience in water treatment. What it is a backwash using an air compressor, just a standard Canadian Tire cheapo, but does the trick. That's connected up to a pressure regulating valve that brings it down to 10 psi, because as you can see I don't have much in the way of hose clamps or anything, and it would blow this thing apart if it came out at 100 psi or whatever the compressor's at. So after the regulator we have a solenoid valve that is normally closed, and basically that stops the air from the compressor from going into the system until we need it, which is all controlled by the Arduino. But as you can see, I have a little bit of a makeshift plumb job here because that's all that the hardware store had at the time, and I wanted to put it together. So that's probably not the way I would have done it if I had the right materials, but it works. So anyways, we come up top here, and that air line tees into the water line that's coming from the pump. And now we have two solenoid valves. And that is necessary because what I had an issue with initially was this last bit of line here would get full of water, or remain full of water, and when the valves opened on the bottom end there would become an airlock that would not allow water to flow back into the pump, and thereby when it started again it would run dry, which would basically burn it out and it'd be garbage shortly. So that wasn't an option. So what I ended up doing was installing a second solenoid valve that allows me to, basically what happens is this one is closed and we send an air blast up that way to clean out that line, allowing the airlock to be gone and water to flow back to the pump, so when it's restarted there is no dry impeller. So yeah, those are the issues, but maybe I'll go over just briefly how it goes in a normal cycle. So the best way to do that, I figure, would be to give a demonstration. I have it set up to do it once a day automatically, just through a timer, but I also have a manual mode just with this little tiny button here that will trigger it manually. And as you can see, each of the relays controlling the pump and various solenoids has an indicator light showing if they are energized or not. So you can kind of watch the cycle go through as well in that way. I'll try and explain it though. as we go. Okay, here goes nothing. Press the button. Click, pump is off. Sending an air blast. And another air blast. And now we clean out the top airline. Shut the valves, turn the pump back on, and away we go. Alright, for the second part of the show, just an update on what I've been working on. I didn't do a whole lot here, but you can see I've hooked up the LEDs and the imp. I put the code on it to do the transfer of data between the imp itself and the Arduino. As you can see, the green light there is the transmit LED, so it'll flicker every so often as it sends information over to the Arduino. But I have yet to put the code on the Arduino to receive that code or send anything back, so it's kind of a one-sided conversation right now. But yeah, made a little bit of progress with that. And the other thing is, take you into the workshop. This, my electromagnetic field detector, which I will get into more in the next segment. Alright, just to give you guys a progress update on the EMF field, or EMF detector. Little project I've been doing here to try and pick up on the electromagnetic interference that seems to be causing problems with my temperature probe. So I figured, I saw a little project in Make magazine that would pick up electromagnetic fields with a pair of headphones and a few components. So I decided to put it together, try and figure out exactly where the noise is coming from, and well, I've managed to get most of the components here. It's looking good. There's a couple things I'm still missing. I ordered the op-amp chip online, and while it is the right one, it is very small. So I guess either I don't know the sizing and how that's described on the description or what, but that little tiny chip there is probably not going to fit into my socket mount there. But it does say you can use some equivalent chips as long as they have a similar pinout or the identical pinout. And the guy at the electronics store here locally said that he did have some other ones, just not the specific one I was looking for. So I guess I'll go back and see what he has. And then the other thing I'm missing still is a headphone jack. I thought I picked one up at the store, but either I lost it or I forgot to get it. So one more piece and this will be completed. And then on the back side I'll have to solder the connections. Got everything mounted so far, but still requires the connections to be soldered. You can see that in the magazine here. So yeah, you can see his connections there. So that'll be the next phase once I get that headphone jack there and the right size chip, I guess. Just for anyone who's interested, that's the way it's all wired together. So a simple little project. They say 15 or 30 bucks, but realistically it's about $50 Canadian is what I've spent so far. But anyways, if this works, it'll be a cool little project that might solve a problem, which is what I'm into. So stay tuned, we'll see how this goes. Alright, well that pretty well concludes the show for this week. Thanks for watching. I'll take you out with another tour of the garden. Stay tuned for next week where I'll show a few different images and maybe some videos of Barrier, the project I've been doing there. as well as further progress with the aquaponics here. Take care.